where somebody takes somebody else's life. Today it's about the death that saved millions of people in the world. But in this case, particularly in Europe. I read this article about how things sometimes need to happen in order to pieces all are put together, all the pieces of the puzzle. And in this case, this death happened in Europe, and it kind of saved the entire continent. I will explain. We always talk about how things can be different if people were not killed, if they were still alive, if they didn't have to go through that episode. But what happens when somebody needs to go? And needs to go because a lot of people will be saved because of it. It is part of the butterfly effect. We talk about it in the episode that I'll link on the top of the screen. How 60 million deaths, how the feeling of empathy led to 60 million deaths. If you want to check out that video, I kind of introduced a little bit more the butterfly effect. But this one, it kind of goes into a different direction. I am probably going to butcher a lot of the names and places because, remember, English is not my first language. So sometimes when I see a word that I know in Spanish, it kind of goes my tongue in different directions. And I ended up pronouncing things differently. Well, this took place in 1241, so a long time ago. The Mongols invaded Hungary, and when they did that, they basically devastated the country. The guy that was in charge in this army that devastated Hungary, it was Batu Khan. Hungary was so devastated that it basically ceased to exist for an entire year. Everyone knew about it in Europe, and the tale started to kind of spread around, and people saw it coming. They described it almost as a very scary horror movie. People in Europe, they knew how they torture the Hungarian prisoners before killing them. It was so bad that the amount of dead people, it was not only unbelievable, but they were set to build pyramids, and not with the bodies, but with the skulls. And it got worse. Well, how? You're probably wondering. They continued to move west, and now they wanted Europe for themselves. rebels broke camp and retreated. But why? They didn't get it. They were going to win no matter what, right? They knew it. Everyone knew it. So why retreat something that you are winning? Well, there's a very good, greedy explanation for all that. The people in Vienna didn't find out for many years. They just saw that they broke camp and left. But at that point was when really the wings of the butterfly kind of flapped to a different direction and it shifted. When they found out what really happened, it was kind of insignificant for the people that were in Vienna. And they retreated because of something that happened thousands of miles away. What? Well, the son of Genghis Khan, his name was Ogedei or Ogedei, Ogedei. Well, this guy died in Karakorum, the capital of the Mongol Empire. Apparently the guy died, and this is as far as I know with the research that I did, because he was a drunk. Some stories tell that maybe he was involved in a fight, and maybe he was just an idiot. We don't know what the heck it was, but apparently when he got drunk, he was a very quote-unquote brave person. Yeah. According to the traditions and their laws, all the family needed to be in an assembly in order to choose their successor. But for Batu Khan, the one that made everyone retreat, it was not only a matter of honor, but it was for power that he came back. He'd rather leave everything in Vienna and retreat, thinking that he could do it all over again if he wanted to. But before, he needed to get that power. At that point in 1242, another flap of the wings of the butterfly changed things again, because it happened to be a very wet year and a lot of their crops rotted. So even though after going back home to get more power and to honor Ogedei that died, a lot of the army of Batu Khan had died because of malnutrition. So making that second invasion of Europe was impossible. I find it very interesting that sometimes that's how lives can go for most of us, you know. Things are going your way, you're getting everything that you want out of life, and then all of a sudden something pique your interest and make you think that you can do a whole lot better, and that you're so good at what you do that you can always come back to it and restart or take from where you left. In this case, I think it was destiny. Call it the butterfly effect. Call it whatever you want. But at that point, people were terrified of him, so maybe he could have gone back and restart what he was doing back in Vienna, and maybe even take the rest of Europe for his army, for his country. But why? Why didn't that happen? was better, and if they got enough nutrition to keep going. So, is this part of the butterfly effect? Did the death of Ogday was all it was needed in order to stop one of the scariest wars in Europe? Was it worth it? I think in this true crime thing that we like to share and talk about, at least I try to find something that we can apply to our lives. And if anybody out there is thinking that they're in a position where they can't fix it, I always try to emphasize that taking somebody's life will never be the answer to any of your problems. It's easier to step away. It's not easier, it's the right thing to do. But it's not easier. But I believe that once you make that decision, things will start to go your way. Doors will start to open. If you're in an abusive relationship, the day you decide to leave and you pack your things and are out the door, things are going to start to open for you. People will give you things that you could never guess that you would get. I've heard stories of single mothers that left their houses with $10, the kids, and some gas, and they ended up going to a place where they had nothing, but somebody gave them a small house to live in. You know, somebody gave the mom a job that you could never dream of. So, it all starts with a decision. In this case, that decision wasn't really made, was it? Unless we count Khan's decision of going back home, which was his responsibility and his duty. But really, all it took for all this devastation to stop is the death of somebody thousands of miles away. And in this case, somebody that died because they died. Nobody took, this wasn't a planned murder, so this could happen. This literally was the destiny of this guy. And how the destiny of this guy really changed the future of Europe. What would have happened if he didn't die? If Khan continued to go into Vienna and continue until the Atlantic as it was predicted, well, we'll never know. But I think this is one of those cases where it took somebody to leave this world in order to make things 100% different for the ones that remained in Europe at the time. It really blows my mind, the butterfly effect. I have so many stories like this that I like to share with you. I think they're fascinating. I think they are the kind of cases, or not cases, but part of history that we don't know that much. Yet, I think that it teaches us a very strong lesson, a very powerful one. We can't control what we do. We can control who we are, how we portray to other people. But ultimately, we still have that thing that is out of our control. And that is part of the butterfly effect. stories in this that I will add here and there, maybe once a week until I'm done with them. But I think it's part of this, history, that it's not only good to know, but I think it will put in perspective what we're going through today. And maybe we can see the butterfly effect in the things that are going on today in the world. It would be easier to spot those things, and I believe. So I'm sorry for Hockaday, but I think his whole purpose in life, after not being such a great guy and a drunk who liked to pick fights, I think he did a good thing in the end. It was almost like his mission to save Europe without even wanting, without even knowing. Thank you so much for being here today. Join me tomorrow for Soft Spoken